Welcome to Mindful Moments. Nourish your mind on the go. This audio uses AI narration to present our original book analysis. Today, we're diving deep into William Golding's Lord of the Flies. This book, it's more than just a survival story. It really makes you think about what it means to be human.
Absolutely.
About civilization, savagery, the darkness inside all of us.
It really does. And the way Golding uses symbols and allegory, it's just brilliant.
Yeah.
He doesn't sugarcoat the brutal parts of human nature.
Right.
But he still manages to show glimmers of hope.
That tension, that push and pull between hope and despair.
Yeah.
That's what I find so fascinating. But okay, let's back up a bit and set the scene. We've got this picture-perfect tropical island.
Right.
A group of British schoolboys stranded after a plane crash. No adults around, You'd think it would be paradise.
Yeah, fresh start.
Exactly. But things get dark pretty quickly.
That's the genius of Golding's setup, right? You have this pristine environment, this blank slate for humanity, and then it all just falls apart.
It does. And it all goes back to those primal instincts lurking beneath the surface of these supposedly civilized boys.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the symbolism in the book. Take the conch shell, for example. At first, it represents order and democracy, this fragile attempt at creating a civil society.
That simple object becomes so powerful. The conch is like the centerpiece for their meetings.
Yeah.
Their attempts at rational discussion. But as they slip further into savagery, the conch loses its power.
And then, of course, that shattering climax, the breakdown of order.
Right.
And then you have the characters themselves, each one a different side of human nature. You've got Ralph, the elected leader. He's trying so hard to hold on to reason, to build a society that's fair and cooperative.
He embodies that desire for good, that hope for something better.
And then there's Jack, his rival. Power-hungry, driven by primal instincts.
Jack is charismatic, you have to admit that.
Oh, he's definitely got charisma. But he's also ruthless. And when he takes over, that's when things really start to unravel.
It's a turning point towards fear and violence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's Piggy, caught in the middle of this whole mess. He represents intellect, reason, and he gets bullied, ostracized. His glasses, a symbol of knowledge, stolen, broken.
Yeah, it's like Golding saying that intelligence is fragile, that it can't always stand up to brute force.
Piggy's fate, it really makes you question things. What role does intellect have in a world driven by instinct?
Right. Is it a weakness?
Yeah.
Or the only hope for true progress?
And then, of course, there's the beast. This lurking presence that terrifies the boys.
It's never really clear what it is it?
No. But it represents their primal fears, the darkness inside them.
It's like this externalization of their internal struggles.
Yes.
And a reminder that the real monsters aren't always out there.
Exactly. They're within us. Then you have Simon, this quiet, sensitive boy. Almost mystical. He seems to get the beast, to understand it on a deeper level.
He's almost prophetic.
Right.
He understands the island's darkness, but he can't make the others understand.
And then that tragic death, mistaken for the beast during that ritualistic dance. It shows how dangerous unchecked fear can be, and how fragile innocence really is.
That's when everything changes, isn't it? From that point on, there's no turning back.
The descent into savagery becomes inevitable.
And then that ironic moment at the end, the naval officer, the return to civilization.
But wait a minute, he also represents the war? The reason they were evacuated in the first place.
Exactly.
So it's like, are they really being rescued? Or are they just entering another kind of darkness?
It's a stark reminder. The world outside the island, it's just as capable of violence and destruction.
It really makes you think.
It does, even in the worst situations. There's still good and evil inside us.
It really makes you think about the choices people make when everything's falling apart. Are we inherently good?
Yeah.
Or is civilization just this thin veneer?
That's a really big question, isn't it? And the novel digs into that pretty deeply. It's not just the environment that makes the boys go savage. It's also those darker impulses inside them.
But not everyone goes full savage.
Right. Like Ralph, he hangs on to reason through the whole story.
Yeah, he's still hoping for rescue. For a return to the civilized world.
But even Ralph, even he's tempted by Jack's tribe, by the power of the hunt.
That's what I find so fascinating about Golding's characters. They're not just good or bad,
They're complicated, struggling with those inner demons.
That's what makes this book so powerful. It shows us the good and the bad in all of us.
Speaking of power, let's talk about Jack for a minute. I mean, he is terrifying.
He is, but you can't deny his charisma.
Absolutely. He's charismatic, but scary. He's a master manipulator. He knows exactly what the boys want. that need for safety, for belonging.
And he uses it against them.
He does. He preys on their fear and offers them this fake sense of security.
Through violence.
Through violence and tribalism. And it works, doesn't it? Look how he transforms them.
The hunters. Faces painted with blood.
Chilling.
That face paint, it's like a mask, you know?
Yeah. They shed their old identities and give in to those primal urges.
It's not just physical violence either, is it?
It's mental. It's about rejecting reason and compassion.
What about the fire? In the beginning, it symbolizes hope.
Yeah, their connection to the outside world. But as the story goes on, fire takes on a whole new meaning.
It becomes a tool for control.
It does. A weapon.
That scene where Jack steals the fire, it's devastating.
Such a turning point. They've completely abandoned reason.
Embraced savagery.
That fire, once a symbol of hope, now a destructive force.
Mirroring what's happening to them inside.
And it's not just the fire.
Even the games they play take on this violent edge.
That scene with Robert Rodert, when they use him as a stand-in for the pig.
I know, so chilling. It's like they're becoming desensitized to violence.
And those lines between play and reality, they just blur.
It's all building up to Simon's death.
That's the most heartbreaking part.
He's the only one who truly understands.
Well,
and they mistake him for the very evil he's trying to warn them about.
Tragic.
Savagery wins over reason, fear over empathy.
It shows how easy it is to get swept up in mob mentality, to lose sight of compassion.
You know, you mentioned the Cold War earlier. Do you think this is also an allegory for nuclear war?
I definitely think so.
The island is a microcosm of the world. The boys representing different nations. That fear of the beast, mirroring the fear of annihilation. So Lord of the Flies. It's more than just a story about some boys on an island.
Way more. It's a warning.
About unchecked power. The fragility of civilization. The darkness we all carry within us.
It's timeless, isn't it? Still resonates today.
Because it speaks to those fundamental anxieties.
Yeah.
About what it means to be human.
Exactly. It makes us ask those hard questions.
What makes us savage? Can we escape the darkness? Is there any hope for a future without violence and fear?
Golding doesn't give us easy answers. But it's those uncomfortable truths that make us think, make us more mindful, more compassionate, maybe even more vigilant in our pursuit of a better world.
Such a powerful message.
Yeah.
And so relevant today. You know, it feels like Golding's making us look at the structures we create in ourselves and our societies.
Yeah.
The boys try to set up rules, a whole system, but it falls apart.
It does.
What does that say about us? Our attempts at creating order.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
You can see their failure as like a smaller version of bigger societal failures. Like they can't stay organized. They can't put the group before themselves.
And that's what we struggle with too, right?
Yeah.
Power struggles, greed, ideologies.
All that stuff gets in the way.
But there are moments of hope in the book too.
Yeah.
Ralph never gives up on being rescued. Simon is compassionate. Piggy's got his intellect.
Right, right.
Even with all that savagery, there's still that human spirit.
Absolutely. Golding shows us the brutality. But there's still kindness, empathy.
Like that scene where Ralph and Jack build the first fire. They put their rivalry aside and work together.
Such a key scene. It shows how we can be unified, even if we have different goals.
So if someone asks you, what's the big takeaway from the book?
Tough question. But I think it's this. We're all a mix of light and darkness, capable of great things and terrible things. It's the choices we make that matter.
Lord of the Flies. It's a book that stays with you.
It really does.
Makes you question everything. Civilization, human nature, yourself.
A must-read for anyone who really wants to understand the world.
And if you want to go even deeper, we have a whole analysis you can check out.
Links below.
And don't forget to subscribe to Mindful Moments for more deep dives into the books that shape us. Keep those minds nourished.